as most of you, maybe all of you know, we lost a great family member recently in Linda Stowell. And she was incredible. And Nola has spent quite a bit of time with her recently, and I asked her to start this off. And what we're going to
I want to share with you that all of you who know Linda, and that was most of you, had a personal experience with her, and it was personal, and you felt loved. I know you did, because that's who she was. So you should understand that as soon as I went there to stay with her on a daily basis, before I was doing that, Seneca, and many of you won't know Seneca, and she's being really shy, but Seneca was with her for 8 months, about 8 months, staying and taking care of her, and we appreciate Seneca for doing that. But Seneca didn't really want to be an end-of-life caregiver. That was not her life's ambition. So when I was finished with her, I was able to go and stay with her, and between Steph and I, we were with her for those last 2 months. Now, many of you came to visit her, and those of you who came then expressed love from your family members to her as well. And in those last 2 months, she expressed over and over and over how much she felt loved. And that it's my job to tell you that she was so grateful for that, and that if she had to leave this life earlier than expected, this was exactly the way she would want to go, is with all of you thinking of her, loving her, and praying on her behalf and Stephanie's behalf. The other thing I want to tell you is many months ago, when we knew that this was, we were in the last year of Linda's life, Linda, Stephanie, and I had several conversations. And one of those conversations was about what did she want for a funeral. Guess what? She didn't want one. And there was lots of discussion about that, but those were her wishes, and it was my job and Stephanie's job to carry out her wishes. And so we may not understand it, it may not be the way we would do it, but those are her wishes. And so thank you for being respectful of that. And she, as I'm guessing most of you have read her obituary, which was beautifully written mostly by her best friend, Amy White, who lives in Cache Valley. And she did a beautiful job. And then Stephanie and a couple of lifelong friends helped with that. So the last 2 months, Linda, by the time I was there, she was in bed. And only got up if needed to. We would help her well, Stephanie could do it by herself, kind of. We had a lot of laughter because those situations are just, you either cry or laugh, and we chose to laugh. And that was Linda. She laughed, and all the time, mostly it was Stephanie saying inappropriate things. But Linda absolutely adored that about her daughter. I shouldn't say always, many times it embarrassed her, but it also, she loved it. So we had lots of laughter and lots of funny, crazy things that just come with being in bed and trying to do all the things of life. But up from bed. It's crazy. I don't know what more to tell you except that I only saw her 2 times discouraged. She just accepted what was coming. She not just accepted it, but embraced it. And 2 weeks before she became non-responsive, I was sitting with her, and at that time she was maybe awake a total of 2 hours in the 24 hours. And she just leaned over and she said, "I'm getting really excited. I have butterflies in my stomach." And I thought that was so lovely. To be excited, not knowing exactly what it looked like, but excited. It was going to be good. Again, she just continually expressed her appreciation for all of you, her family. She felt like and said out loud that she had the best family. She was so grateful for all of you. Thank you.
Take longer than 2 minutes, but I've had a lot of incredible experiences with Linda. As you all know, she loved horses, and she went with me. Can you hear me? She went with me and Michelle Howell to Kentucky a couple of times, and we went to the Rocky Mountain Gated Horse Show there, and we saw and had some incredible experiences. One year, just me and Linda went, and we took our mattresses and put them in a horse stall as far away from where the horse show horses were, and we just camped there, slept there, had our stuff there. We didn't have to worry about a thing, and they had showers and everything. But while we were there, we had chances to ride horses, and I don't know if you've been to the Kentucky Horse Park, but it's beautiful. There's acres and acres of grass and trees, and it's just gorgeous. And we got to ride our horses there. I could tell you many experiences, but I'm not going to. But I want to say that all the time that I was around Linda, since she had this condition, and she was so positive and upbeat. She was not negative or sad at all, and I thought that was incredible. And I said, well, the reason you're so excited, you're going to ride my horse Tinkerbell when you get to heaven. She said, yes, I'm looking forward to it. So she was just really incredible. And so I'm not going to take it.
When Linda was a little girl and we still lived in Marion, one day she was on her hands and knees and going around on her hands and knees, and I spoke to her and she just looked at me. She didn't answer. So I said, has the cat got your tongue? And she stuck her tongue out, but she didn't say anything. And so I just went about my way. And later I said, why wouldn't you talk to me, Linda? And she said, well, I was a horse and I couldn't talk.
Okay, before I give my tribute to Linda, I have a request for Tim and Louise to make up a tribute for my funeral, as good as this one, and a song. A funeral is one of my favorite meetings. At that time, the things that are really important come into focus, I think. Anytime I hear a beautiful sermon or a beautiful talk, I go up to the person and say, could I ask you to participate at my funeral? I want you to be a speaker or sing that song at my funeral. But the problem I've got now is that I've got such a long list that my wife said she's coming to my funeral, but only the first day. My memories of Linda is so good. She's such a classy, wonderful lady. There's two things that I remember about her specifically. She's such a horse person, understood them, loved them, had a feeling for them. And the other thing is, the last couple of years I've had an opportunity to, on a weekly basis, I'll be on a telephone call, family telephone call, remembering family memories and talking about current events and a little bit of politics. She's been our teacher for the last couple of years on the Constitution. She understood it, loved it, and has taught us. That are a couple of my memories of Linda.
I already told about Linda. My first memory of her is sleeping in the drawer of the dresser. We lived in the granary. We had a dresser there. Mom would pull that drawer out, had a little bed in there, and that's where Linda slept. For 12 years, she was my favorite sister, and we were close. When Luana was born, she was so delighted to have a sister, and then we got Enola May. It's in a family of 10, to only have 3 sisters is pretty tough, but if they're the best sisters in the world, you just take it the way it comes. I don't remember a lot. We interacted. She rode horses, I moved pipe, drove tractors. But I remember I was home from a mission. She was home getting ready to get married. And she and I were so privileged one night to be finished milking the cows. And Dad come back out to check to see how things were going as we finished up. And we had done something that he wasn't entirely happy about. And he says, well, why did you do it that way? And Linda just stretched up on her toes and looked him in the eye, and she says, I don't know whether it's heredity or environment. And I could see his face turn red and his fist clenched down at his side, and he stood there for about 30 seconds and looked at her, and he just turned and stalked off. And I thought she had finally arrived. She was finally an adult, and he prided himself on being a top-notch debater. So if she had the last word, that was really good. Another thing that happened at that time of my life, I'd come home from a mission, and I was always expected to do the heavy labor, lift pipes and whatever took a lot of strength. Our father was a 135-pound weakling, and my older brother followed in his footsteps, and Linda wasn't much bigger, and the rest of the kids hadn't grown up yet. But she just turned to me and she says, Clinton, you just got to know that you will be expected to do all the work that you can do, and it still won't be enough. So you'll have to decide what is your share and what you can do, and take some time for yourself. I thought about that and how she had been so right with my dad, and so that was a great help to me when I realized that I had to do like the 3 little pigs and go seek my own fortune.
I had graduated from Ricks College, and I wanted to go to Utah State University, and I didn't have enough money for tuition, but I figured I'd figure out how to pay out-of-state tuition. And I was living with Linda, so I was saving money there, and I wanted to get a hand count of how many of the family had lived with Linda, but I'm sure it's significant. But she said, so what are you going to do for tuition? And I said, well, I don't know for sure. And she said, well, we maybe can qualify you for in-state tuition. And I said, no, I've looked into that. And she said, well, let me go down there with you. And she had set up a meeting with the tuition committee, and there were 4 or 5 of them on the committee, and we went in there and Linda pled my case to them, and they said, well, we don't normally do this, but she had one or two connections on that committee, and they granted me in-state tuition to attend Utah State University. So that's one of many, many, many good memories of Linda.
I guess probably one of the things, first ones of Linda, is that I was sick and laying in the bed, and everybody was gone, and I was just laying there, and she came in and sat down or laid down by me and started to rub my back, and it was just so comforting to have her do that. I was lonely and sick and sitting there, but then as I graduated from high school, I went off to work. Clinton gave me a job, and Ben was working for a company in Idaho Falls, so we were there in Idaho Falls, and I said, where are you going to live? And he said, with Linda. And I says, I wonder if I could. And so Ben and I both stayed with Linda that summer as I worked, and she did everything, just let us do whatever we wanted. I think we slept on the floor in Shane's room. She's lived in a trailer, and we slept on, and Linda was just always grateful and loving, and we just stayed there till we went to Rick's College. And every time I've been with Linda, she's just always graceful and loving, and you always felt welcome.
There are a few people at this gathering who could remember when Linda was born, but very few. I was one that was there and do remember her birth. It was in the fall of the year. Grayson Jones, a good friend of the family who came to visit us quite a bit and was very close to us, was there. We had the sheep in the corral doing something to them, and my father was there, Grayson Jones was there, I was there, and I don't know who else was there, but John was not there. And we were working the sheep and doing what we need to do with them in the corral, and about mid-morning John came, and he had just come from the hospital, and Linda was born that night. And Grayson Jones said, well, raise her up well so I can have a good wife. Now, Grayson was about the same age as John. Of course, that was a facetious statement, but I remember that was impressive to me. Jim had a horse here not too many years ago. I believe his name was Captain, and he was a stallion. I guess I'm correct on that. I was going to verify that with Jim. But he got to be have a raunchy disposition because he was a stallion and he wasn't broke. And nobody here had the courage to do anything with him. We were kind of afraid of him. And Linda was here, and she worked around his head a little bit and worked with him, and then she disappeared and with the horse, and the next thing I knew, why, she had a little switch in her hand and she was west of the creek riding the horse down toward the place here, and the horse was totally under control. And that is the horse that she calls Captain. Is that correct? Captain?
I don't know what horse you're
Okay, never mind. It was Captain. All right, when Linda was about 3 years old, the living in the house that we called John's house, which was just south of the cemetery, we were working there. I think it was during the season of harvesting peas. Linda and I were there with a Jeep, and she said, I'm going to go to a important party tomorrow. And I said, you are? And she says, yes, me and my mom are going to go. I said, what kind of a party is it? And she says, it's a mothers and daughters party. My mom is going to go as the mother, and I'm going to go as the daughter. And she was so proud, and that, coming from that little sweet girl, was just, I still can remember her saying that. I know a lot of people who enjoy horses and love horses and are good with horses, but I don't know anybody that was as loved horses and could communicate with horses as good as Linda. As most of you know, when we got this place here in Idaho, we herded sheep, the whole herd of sheep, about 600 of them at first, and of course the number got down to a few less than that with coyotes and whatnot, but we herded them all, what we call the section, which is up Bob Smith Creek, up to the top of the creek where it looks down into Blazer and Pebble. And so we would have them up there about a month, and we would drive them up and have to keep them on that section and not let them off. And the forest ranger had told me the boundaries, and he was pretty firm and a natural forest ranger and thought every inch of ground that the government owned was his. And so he let me know where the boundaries are, and so it was a challenge to keep the sheep on that, in that section of ground. But we had a sheep camp almost up to where the sheep were at the head of this Bob Smith Creek, and I was in charge of the sheep for 2 or 3 years when they went up there, when I was here on the place. And I would take Doug or Jim or Roy or Linda, and we would stay in the camp. And then Linda got old enough that her mother thought it would be inappropriate for her to be there with me in the camp, just the two of us. But before she got to that age, she would go with me. And we had a horse named Tang that was a desert horse. It was a Mustang, and we got him when we lived in Marion, and a young man had him, and the horse got to bucking, and he was afraid of him, and he couldn't handle him, so we got him. And so we worked with him and broke him. I rode him. My father snubbed him to a draft horse, and we rode him, and we brought him up here, and he was hurt in the hip, so he drug a hip a little bit and was not totally sound, but he was a good horse. And so Linda and I, on this occasion, were riding in the evening up to the sheep camp, and from there then we'd go up and herd the sheep until dark. And we stopped to rest the horses, and we got off our horses to let them rest, and she looked at me and she said, I sure love horses. I even love to smell their farts. I don't know anybody in this that I have ever met who loves horses that much. Has been said, Linda was a classy lady, a classy lady. When we needed some help here, Jim and I, to sort cattle or gather cattle, we would call Linda, and she usually could come. And when she came, she was a good hand. She'd had so much experience on this ranch, gathering and moving cattle. We drove the cattle over up to our place in Chesterfield, and one time she was here, and so there was her husband was here, Dan was here, and we had some trouble with the cattle as we got them there northeast of the town of Lava, and got up to the ridge where they came down into Blazer, and they were yearling cattle, and they started to spread, and we couldn't. And Linda was so Johnny on the spot that she got her horse in the right place, got around those cattle in those cedars, and headed them off. And it took some savvy to know what to do, and Linda did know what to do. She was a lifesaver that day. We all have so much respect and admiration for Linda. I don't know why she went the way she did and so early in her life, but I feel confident that she is very happy now, very, very happy with her loved ones, her family, and she's capable of taking responsibility in heaven and doing anything that it will be asked of her. I love Linda, and I will always cherish so dearly in my heart my memories of her.
This is Jay, little brother Jay. Linda was special to all of us. My family, that was one of the few places my kids were always comfortable. We spent quite a bit of time there with her, and my kids will dearly miss her. She was like another grandma to them, and that was special. My wife was always comfortable there, and me too. Steph was always wonderful, and Linda, well, everybody knows she was always sweet and wonderful. Memories of Linda. the last couple months we were able to go down there for a few days at a time, a couple times, and spend some time with her, and that was really wonderful. She was always so joyful and so happy and pleasant, and when you brought her some food that she liked, she was just ecstatic to have something that she enjoyed. And I remember when I lived with her, she was a mother to me, and if I ever really needed Linda's attention, there was only one way you'd ever get her full attention, and that was to say, Linda, do you want to go for a horse ride? And then you had her undivided attention. You could talk for hours, but that was the only way you could get her undivided attention, because there was always too many people needed her time and her attention if she was anywhere she could be distracted. And there were some wonderful horse rides, and I'm not even that big on horses, but those were cherished times for me on a horse. I'm not sure if there's anything else except for she will be greatly missed in our family, and it will be a great day when we get to see her again. And that's all I have to say.
Clinton and I got married. Linda was so sweet, and Dan, and we used to stop there quite a bit. But one of the worst days of my life was with Linda and Dan. We got a phone call that our grandson had passed away, and Linda was beyond kind. Zeke was only 6 weeks old, and we were in Logan at their house, and I got a flight back to Tucson, and I turned around and looked because I had a layover. I had to wait for quite a while. Linda was there. She stayed with me. I loved Linda. She, no matter what she was going through, she was positive. Her health issues, and she was an amazing woman. She loved my 2 older kids, Josh and Nikki. Nikki was horse crazy too. So anytime we went there, Nikki would get Linda to take her out to the horses. She meant a lot to my 2 kids. They knew her better than our younger ones, but Linda was always extremely special. I've never met anyone with her spirit like she had. We all loved her.
My name is Nikki Dickerson, and I am Linda's niece. Linda came into my life when my mom and dad, he's not my stepdad, he's my dad, Clinton, got married. And I was just coming into my teenage years. Linda took me in, took my brother in, treated us no different than any other niece or nephew. Linda and I shared a love of riding horses and just being outdoors and talking about animals and their spirits and how close we were with them, and that was a really good memory. Another memory that I have, we were traveling from Tucson to Idaho, and we stopped at their house, and I was playing in the creek in the back of their house, and there was a fish in the creek that was just kind of floating there, and I came up behind it and put my hands down and just lifted this fish out of Linda's creek, and the look on her face and my dad's face and my mom's face was just incredulous. I wanted to eat the fish, but my dad said that any fish that was dumb enough to be caught by his hands wasn't worth eating, so I had to throw it back. But Linda has always been a person in my life that I can count on. She's always been loving, happy, joyous, and just wanting to make everyone else around her happy too. I'm so glad that I got to see her and spend time with her and love on her just a couple months ago and tell her how much I appreciate everything that she's done for me in my life. Linda, I love you, I miss you. Can't wait to see you again at home.
Doug's Andrus's wife. The one memory, and I've been trying to find the picture, I managed one time several years ago to make it up to the ridge walking on my own. When I got back, and I think I got a ride back, I sat down by Linda on a bench over here, and she put her arm around me and told me I was her hero. And I thought it was very special, and the look on her face was just full of joy and love. I don't know, I was probably making some dumb smirk, but she always treated me that way, and I appreciated her, and I know I'll miss her. Right now it doesn't seem real.
My name is Linda Andrus Stowell. I feel like I'm a niece, but I'm actually a cousin of Linda. I'm Ken and Colleen's daughter. So I had the pleasure of being able to associate with Linda when she would come to the ranch and ride horses or do fun cowgirl things. So that's one of my favorite memories of Linda. She also, just like has been mentioned probably 100 times, had the grace and ability to make something beautiful. So we were building a house here in Lava, and I don't know why I didn't think about it before, but we had started the building process and then brought her, I guess my mom and my sister-in-law Shelby mentioned, oh, you should ask Linda, you know. So we asked her advice about different house plans, looking at our house plans, and she made great suggestions, and then helped further down the road when we were painting, helping with colors and all those fun things. I still think about her. As I look at my house. And I think what Nola described as just being excited to go to the next reunion. I'm sure she's full of joy just as she was in this life. So I love you, Linda.
I am Tanya Andrus Stowell. Linda was also my cousin. What I remember most about Linda is her being just so classy and elegant, but low maintenance. She came and helped us pick colors for this new house as we were going to be moving in. I was 14 when we moved into the new house, and she asked me what color I wanted my room and talked to me about that, and that was so fun. And she was always so good and generous to help people with that, and we kind of abused it a bit, maybe, I don't know, but she was so wonderful, never made us feel that way. Another fun thing I got to do with Linda is when Ken and Jim Andrus won an award by the Suffolk Sheep Association, and we got to fly out to Sedalia for them to get the award, and Linda came with us, and that was really fun. So she and I got to room together, and we went out to have Pakistani food one night. That was really fun, and visit with everybody. And she was, of course, so kind and gracious and beautiful, and great to travel with her. We love her, and looking forward to seeing her again.
Memories of Linda, tribute to Linda. I wasn't going to do this. I haven't done this yet. She was my mom. For practical purposes, when my mom had me, Linda was 11, and she was so excited to have a sister. And Mom was so busy with everything that was going on that Linda raised me. And whenever I needed anything, she was there. She sewed clothes for me. She did my hair. I've got a picture of our family picture and my hair's all curled. Nobody but Linda could have made that happen. I probably wouldn't have sat for it. But yeah, just everything that she had been there my whole life doing all the things that a mom does. So I now have some big sister. I just assumed that's what all big sisters did. But I've been trying to figure out how to cry, and every time I think I'm gonna cry, I'll just think, okay, I'm ready to cry, and I'm not. As soon as I start thinking about crying, Linda's there, and she's going, okay, who are you crying for, you or me? Because I don't need you to cry for me. And this last week and a half, 2 weeks, she was never able to travel on the truck with us. She was never healthy enough or felt like she could travel. And we'd always wanted to take her on a ride, and she's been there all week with me. I'll look and see something, and I'll go, this is what it is, Linda. I've been telling you, this is what it looks like. And she'll go, yeah, well, this is so cool. And I remember when I was little, we were having to debate whether or not a Pegasus or a unicorn was the most awesome horse. And I picked Pegasus, and Linda's got a whole bunch of them up there now. She's flying with us and driving with us and riding with us when we think about it. So I haven't had a meltdown. I start to cry, and as soon as I start to think about that, I hear her say, if you're crying for you, go ahead, but if you're crying for me, I don't need it. So there you go. She's good and I'm good, and it was a pleasure to, you couldn't ask for a better big sister. So.
My name is Ruth Knapp Calabro. This might not be my very first memory of Linda, but we came up to Lava and we were playing at Kim and Marcy's house with Nicole, and Nicole was so excited because Stephanie was coming, and I thought, I have more cousins that I don't know, but through them, oh yeah, Stephanie and Linda and Shane, and so it was one of those things where you have a really good impression even before you make the other connection. So that was awesome. It's true, I feel what everybody else has said, that Linda was so amazing and helped you feel really loved and important. I always felt that way around her, and we sure loved her. With her gifts and abilities with interior design, that was really neat too, because I don't know how to decorate or do those kinds of things, but my daughter Hannah, she from a very young age had ideas of how to create cool houses and do neat things. She has that ability, and she does architectural design now. But Linda, with the help of my mom, Linda Andrus Stowell, they partnered and they came, and I felt like not only was I so supported, but my family was supported through her gifts and abilities, and she helped my girls design a bed, and with Linda's help was able to create a built-in bunk bed in their bedroom and other things like that over the years with advice. But again, on never condescending, but really valuing each person and their abilities. I remember she said that sometimes couples have a lot of friction and contention when they're trying to design a house or make plans, and Linda had the ability to hear everybody's desires and then help the house come together that was a win-win for everybody. So I think creating peace and harmony in the marriages of her clients as well was really cool. And several years ago, I remember Linda spent hours giving the children rides on horses. Everybody that wanted to, as many times as they wanted to get back on the horse. She was so patient and loving.
Cody Kessler. Linda was my aunt. Luana's son. I was about to say daughter. That's not good. As a kid growing up in Canada, we would always come down and visit Linda at her house. and we would leave at 6 a.m. in the morning. As a kid growing up, we would hop in the fifth wheel and nap, and then we would get to Logan by about 10, 11 o'clock at night. So we were tired being kids. Somehow my mom wasn't though, and my mom loves to rub feet a lot, like kind of too much. And she would rub Linda's feet for hours once we got to the house. So she wasn't going to bed till 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock at night. And of course, being kids, we would get up early, and no one else was up except Linda. And she would make us smoothies in the morning. And they were, gosh darn, the best smoothies ever, because she would throw in an entire apple in the blender. Never seen that before. But I do remember Linda being kind. She was always smile on her face, always wanting to help out any way she could. And that's what I'm gonna miss the most, is the smile that she had. And every time she would always tell a joke or try to make a kid laugh, she would have a wink. She would wink at us, just to say, hey, it's gonna be okay. That's what I miss the most about her, is the smiles and the winks.
Yes. So first of all, you see my face. I'm Lisa, and Linda is my first cousin. A couple of things about Linda. I remember that she always loved me, and I loved her. And when my first awareness of Linda, she was grown up and married and had Shane, and I was still a kid. But she was like the big cool adult, and I had been begging my parents for about 2 years to let me get my ears pierced, and they wouldn't, and they wouldn't, and they wouldn't, and then they finally agreed. And when I was 12, and we were living in Shelley, and Linda and Dan were in Idaho Falls. So Linda was the one that took me to the mall to get my ears pierced, because she was cool and she was on board with it. But when we got to the mall and we went in to get my ears pierced, they would not let me get my ears pierced because Linda wasn't my legal guardian. So we still had to call Louise and have her schlep over to the mall with all of the kids to sign for me to get my ears pierced. But like, it was way more fun to be there with Linda than my mom and my 8 little brothers. Well, probably Tim wasn't born yet, so 7 little brothers and sisters. And I know I just always felt so loved with Linda, and as I'm sure it says in the song, and I'm sure many other people have shared, she helped with their house. So I had a ton of picture frames, and I wanted to put them on a wall and make a nice collage, and she came over and helped me do this a few years ago. I mean, it's probably been 6 or 7 years, and the picture frames look great. I still have stock photos in most of them, and people are like, who are those people? Don't know, but at least when I'm ready to put the pictures in, they're arranged beautifully. And as I was working remote after COVID, I was turning a bedroom into my home office, and I wanted a really nice neutral gray that didn't have warm brown undertones, and didn't have cool blue undertones, just a really nice neutral gray. And Linda went over paint chips with me for probably an hour and helped me pick out the nice neutral gray, and I love that room. It's where I work. I spend kind of some leisure time in there too. And the night she passed away, and I was sad because I miss her. I was sitting in that room, and I looked at those walls that she helped me pick, and I just felt like it was this giant hug from Linda in that room. So now when I look at my wall with the crazy stock photos, or the walls in my home office, I can just remember Linda and how much I always knew that she loved me. And it was really cool to grow up and not just be she's the cool adult, I'm the little kid, but to be able to be her peer and her friend too. And there's no one like her. Just love her so much. Thanks.
Hello, can you hear me? Jennifer Knapp. Linda was special. She made me feel special. we had moved into a new house and we wanted to put lime green in our kitchen on the walls. And my mom was like, don't put lime green on me, no. And Linda came in and just said, it's your kitchen, you can do what you want. We did. I love Linda. And she just meant so much to me that every time I was with her, I could leave feeling better about myself and just feeling loved from her. And I'm so thankful for her in my life, and I miss her already. Thanks.
Are you ready? My name is Hannah Squire, and I'm Ruth Calabro's daughter and Louise Knapp's granddaughter. And I didn't know Linda super well, but I do have good memories of her. When I lived in a little house on 300 South in Provo, I remember Linda helping us with the interior design of our house. And my mom has mentioned a lot of these things that I wanted to say, but I remember she helped us build a little loft in my bedroom that I shared with my sister Rebecca, and she made it fun and magical and exciting for us, helped us pick the paint color, and my memories of her are just that she had a wonderful laugh and that she was energetic and joyful and positive and made me feel hopeful and happy, and I love her a lot.
I don't want to cry, and so and I kept thinking, I don't know if I have a specific story, but I went to college at Utah State, and I got to stay with her for a little bit, and I still have the towel. There was a towel that I accidentally took home, and I still have it, and I never got rid of it because it was Linda's. But it's like, how do you tell somebody how your experience with them is when it's a feeling of love? And so then I was able to, and then her love of horses. I have always loved horses, even down to the smell of their poop. And so my dad would say, you're just like your Aunt Linda. And I didn't know her that well then, and so I'm getting to know her better in college. But she was so graceful, so elegant and beautiful, and seemed like she was royalty, but yet so loving and humble and peaceful, right? Like a feeling that you get when you're around an angel, really. And so when we went to see her, she was bedridden at this point, and went to see her, and she was so graceful. Even then, she looked so beautiful, and I just kept thinking, she's on her deathbed, but she looks so beautiful. And so and just sat there and listened to my sister Nicole talk about a bunch of things, and I'm thinking, really, I'm sure Linda doesn't want to hear this. She's dying, and she's just listening to her all hours of the night, and I'm like, wow, she's just so patient and so loving. And just, you know, the last word she said to me as she hugged me was, take care of Stephanie. And that's how she was. Here it is, it's her life, and she wants to watch over her daughter, you know. And she was just selfless and just true, genuine, and just a good person that has no hate for anyone and just loves everyone. So if I were to think of a heavenly mother or a heavenly angel, it would be her. She would be the person, and I'm blessed to have known her, and I wish her grandkids knew her a little better. They missed out, and it's kind of sad, but she left a legacy for all of us, and I would love to live my life. And if I'm on my deathbed, I will think of her, and I will say she was happy, and I want to go the same way that she did. Well, maybe not. Maybe I just want to go fast. Maybe I just want to go in the middle of the night. But if I have to be, if it has to be drawn out, I hope that I can be as graceful as she was, and so loving. So, and then I do remember too, the last reunion that we were together, and she was walking little kids around on the horse, and I would have been so tired, but she was making sure everybody got a ride on that horse, and that was just her love language. So that's all I have to say. So
I'm Carla, Ben's wife. The one thing that I remember about Linda is she took everybody under her wing. When we were first married, we went down to ASU in Arizona to go to school. He gets done with school, he's heading to a big job at Boeing. We stop at Linda's, just, you know, kind of seeing family as we go. And she says, "What are you gonna wear when you're working there?" He says, "Well, I don't know, whatever I got." And I took one look at Linda and I said, And she said, "Here, I think we need to go on a shopping spree." And she took us shopping and got him some nice slacks, some nice shirts, a beautiful sweater that he could wear, and a couple of ties, because he was used to DI stuff, and it was usually polyester. And so I'm just grateful that she did that, and she helped him to see that he needed to improve his style, and that was good. Good for him, good for me.
I'm Willis Knapp, and Linda was my first cousin. I was embarrassed about everywhere I ever lived growing up. I'd try not to have my friends come over. I'd have them drop me off a block away. I didn't want anybody to know where I lived. And my parents moved to Idaho and back while I was serving a mission. And they bought this house that they had to pay cash because nobody would give a mortgage on it. It was so destroyed and dilapidated, and I went and saw that house and was just terrified. Like, why would they build this house? This is the worst house we've ever had. Because I knew they wouldn't do anything to improve it, but then somehow they gave Linda permission to take over, and they made that house so nice that as I started college, I actually had a friend party and invited all my friends over. It was the first time in my life I was proud of where I lived, and I wanted people to see that we weren't completely ghetto. And she helped me on my own homes after that to do interior design and things. And she was so, like everybody said, just so elegant and classy.
I loved Linda, and I felt so loved by her. I think it's remarkable how her sister Nola was able to say that she knows every single person who knew Linda felt so loved by her. And I was like, that's true. And I just know that being around her, she would uplift me and encourage me. And I'm so grateful to know her, and I'm very grateful to be able to ride horses with her and learn from her more in the next life. That's all.
Okay. So I would probably start at the very beginning. I met Kim at BYU, and when he started telling me about his parents, he told me that his dad was this amazing, strong person that, and he described him to me, and then he talked about his mother being quiet, and I had them pictured so different than what they really looked like, because I had his dad pictured as this tall 6'2", you know, mountain of a man, and his mom is this little tiny quiet, and they were just the opposite. And when I met him the first time, I remember he took me to Lava, to the family home, and I had come from a really different background, and so I was surprised to see, you know, a farmhouse and tons of kids and stuff everywhere, and a little taken back, I have to admit, if I'm kind of doing the transparency thing, that I was a little taken back by the whole farm thing. And so after that, we went up to Rexburg, and I met Linda. And I remember thinking, within a few minutes, I felt like I had known her my whole life. There was this calm, you know, sweet, and it's probably like everybody else has said, you felt like you were the only person in the world, and you mattered to her. And I remember looking at her and thinking, I think I can take this family. And so it was really, she was kind of my anchor for a long time. I related to Dan on a music level, and then I related to Linda because I was in interior decorating in college. When I was dating Kim, I asked him, he was telling me about his sister that was in interior design. And I said, so what's she doing with her degree? And he said, raising babies. And I just admired the gentle peace. She was like always getting a warm hug. It didn't matter what she was going through in her life. It never showed. In the years I knew her, I never heard her say a bad thing about anyone, ever. There was never a critical, and if something did go to a negative approach, she would turn it around and start giving you reasons why this was going on. And I just loved that about her. She was like my port in the storm. And she took care of my kids when I went to college. She was, and they'll tell you, they probably have, she was like their second mom. They were so happy to have that anchor for them also. And she will be dearly missed.
Well, I don't have very many long, passionate memories with Linda, except that she was always gentle, always sweet. She always acted like she was really interested in you and what you had to say. You had a feeling that you were her favorite. I think everybody thought, yeah, I'm Linda's favorite. I sure did. I did take a trip with Linda and Jim to Linton, North Dakota. And the guy there owns a herd of horses that he claims are the last herd of Sitting Bull, Chief Sitting Bull. And he had the horses tested, their blood tested, and their DNA does not go back to European ancestry. It goes to Native American ancestry. And the horses are kind of blocky and they look different. And so Linda and Jim came to eastern Montana, stayed the night at our house, and then the next day the three of us went, and that was such a blast. Linda was interested in everything, the landscape, the way people farmed, the way they got their crops, and there's no irrigation up there. Everything just grows because of the atmosphere, and she just commented on it, and we saw old ghost towns, and she'd want to stop and look at them. She was just fascinated with everything. She just wanted to drink everything in. And then we got to the horses, and she could not get out fast enough. She wanted to get out and see them and watch them. And we went to one herd and looked them over, and then the guy took us up on a hill, and up on a higher hill we got out, and I don't know what happened, but a herd of about 100 to 150 horses just came running like it was the Man from Snowy River movie. They all came running up this hill that, you know, you could hear their hoof beats and kind of pounding, and they ran up on the hill, and they wanted to see Linda. I don't know how they knew, but they started to circle around her like she was their boss, and they started to come up and sniff her, and she'd just pet their heads. And they're wild, they're not broke horses. And then they'd get close, and one kind of came up close and was a little scared, so she just turned her back on it and gave affection to a different one. And then that one's like, what? Did I lose my chance? And it kind of it was amazing to watch that. And so I love that Linda has a gentle enough soul and spirit that all of the humans want to be around her, and all of the animal spirits want to be around her too. And I miss her.
All right. Okay, I've shared a lot of things already via a letter and talking to everyone all together, but there was one final thing I would like to say. First of all, I've always had Linda in my life because she was my big sister, who then was like mom. And then as I grew into adulthood, she was my friend. And the last 12 years, especially since her divorce, we were able to, and my children were grown and hers were, then Linda and Steph and I have had lots of opportunities to do things together. And I cherish those. I cherish them in the moment, but I cherish them even more now that we took the time to do that and to be together and have some experiences that were pretty amazing. And I love what Joseph said. I knew I was her favorite. And of course, I know everybody feels like they were her favorite, but I was her favorite. Besides her daughter, she adored her children. And she so adored her daughter, who her daughter feels like she doesn't fit in any mold. And thank goodness she doesn't, because she's just as, that's why she could come to Linda, is because God gave her a spirit that was just as free-spirited and like wild horses, I guess. But boy, they loved each other, and I'm grateful to have witnessed that. I learned how to be a caretaker from my sister, and I learned how to be a mother from my sister, and I learned how to do really hard things in life from my sister going first. And I'm forever grateful for that. And then the final thing she taught me was how to die. It's been a beautiful and awful summer, knowing I was going to lose my beloved sister. But it was so beautiful. I now know how to greet everyone who comes or doesn't come. There were people who maybe would contact and say, I can't make it. And she'd be like, oh, it's fine. Just thank you so much. She just was gracious about everything and everyone. And she was just kind and patient and loving and funny and had the best of spirits even on days when she was discouraged. And I take that, I have learned from that. I hope I don't have to do a lingering illness like she did, but if I do, I now know how to do it. I love you. Thank you.
Linda Andrus Stowell, a truly magnificent soul, a gal we know and love. She possesses an essence from above. She is beautiful and refined, as well as being thoughtful and kind. She is generous with talent in interior design. With her aid, many of our houses went from ugly to fine. She served in the church in many a capacity, recently as the head gal in the Relief Society presidency. When a kitten 4-H needed help with a horse, Linda was there as a mentor, of course. She has a love for horses which is inborn. She can train, ride, and show them. She loves them and relates to them in any form. We honor and revere her life. We cherish her memory as she graduates from this world of strife. It's impossible to capture the totality of such a magnificent soul in a short poem. Blessedly, we can look forward to a continued relationship with Linda in our heavenly home. May her reunion with her Savior, loved ones and horses in heaven, be everything she expects and then some. God bless you, Linda. We love you.